Okay everyone, Friday's video, we've taken a couple of days away from the hustle and bustle of Celtic trying to sign 14 players in the final 6 minutes of the transfer window. Yesterday we learned all about Alex Valle. Wednesday we spoke about the UEFA Champions League's new format, so you can check out both of those videos. But today we're back with John and there's plenty to talk about, eh?
Yeah, it's all happening, isn't it? With the excitement of the Champions League draw, which I thought was a good watch, good refreshing watch, compared to the norm that we're used to. And we're on deadline day, Hamish, and anything can happen. I'm not wearing a yellow tie, thank God. I don't buy into that gimmick too far, but I was surprised you've not got your suit and tie on. I think you usually do that kind of gimmick, but we're here and we're here to do business, I think, on this final day and hopefully put together the squad to make some sort of impact on that Champions League.
Didn't pack my suit, didn't bring my suit to Australia, so that's not ideal. I would have had it on. I did actually think about that earlier in the week. Me and Steve are going to do a video Saturday morning for all of you watching. That will be a kind of probably recorded around the time of the window closing, bit of a Rangers preview as well. So loads happening. It all happens within a few days of each other. Champions League draw was made yesterday, John. I was completely asleep for it, so I want to know, how did the draw actually go? You say it was refreshing. What do you mean?
I just mean in the sense that, it was just a different format for that draw itself, not just for the competition. And so they draw a team manually out of the pot and then they push a button. It was like a game show, and then it all just kind of fills in.
Was it Ronaldo doing it as well, I read?
Ronaldo doing it and Gigi Buffon. And so you got a sense of who the two top pot one teams you would face immediately, and then it kind of filtered down from there. And I thought it was quite exciting. Obviously, I thought the draw panned out pretty well for us in the end. I think you look at some of the other draws that some of the other pot three teams got, some horror draws. You see some teams drawing Real Madrid and Barcelona, etc. But I feel like we've managed to avoid the horror draw. I'm always a bit hesitant to talk up our chances in the Champions League too much because obviously the last 10 years speaks for itself. But I think if you're going into it and, there's a scale of horror draw to medium draw to pretty kind draw, and I think we're somewhere in between medium and pretty kind.
What was it? Is it Lille you picked out? People might not have seen this because they're focused on us, but Lille got Real Madrid, Liverpool, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Bologna, and then like Feyenoord, Sporting Lisbon and Sturm Graz. So imagine getting Real Madrid, Liverpool, Juventus and Atletico Madrid. They were in our pot as well, weren't they? So it could have been as bad as that.
Yeah. So that's the kind of scale that you're going up against. And I think the teams that we do have, I think the home games especially look like we'll be competitive in all of the home games. And, the away games for Celtic are sometimes a bit of a write-off in the Champions League anyway. And I think that's, Aston Villa out of pot four is obviously difficult. But if you're looking at the away games and thinking we might not get too much from them anyway, then you're looking for a kinder home draw. And I feel like we got that out of the pots.
I was pinching myself. I think it's an unbelievable draw. You're always wary of going overboard here because there's still going to be unbelievably tough matches, and everyone's looking at us and going, "Oh, that they're a good team to get given our recent European record." So we need to remember that. But you're right. You talk about the home games there, right? And I'm just looking at the actual pots, and if you were to actually pick the team you would want at home from each pot, I reckon we actually got the four. Now I don't know the odds of that, but you look at pot one in terms of who do you want to come to Celtic Park to give you the best chance. And again, Leipzig are not bad. They beat us home and away really comfortably a couple of years ago. But compared to Real Madrid, Man City, Bayern, PSG, Liverpool, Inter, Dortmund and Barcelona, Leipzig are who you want at home. Pot two, Club Brugge again are a good side, very good side. They're in pot two for a reason, but you'd rather them at home than Bayer Leverkusen or even Atletico Madrid. Pot three, young boys have made a really poor start to their season in Switzerland. Again, it's a tough game. They're probably looking at us and going, that's a winnable game even at Celtic Park, but you fancy a match-up like that. And pot four, Slovan Bratislava at home, they were actually the team that I looked at as potentially being the weakest side maybe in the competition. So it's amazing the way it's fallen. I mean, again, we're in danger of like going overboard and go 12 points right away. I mean, we're still going to face really, really tough matches there, even in the 4 I've just mentioned. But like, even if you take Leipzig away, Club Brugge at home, Celtic should be capable of winning that game if we play at our top level. Young Boys, ditto, and Slovan Bratislava as well. And then, I mean, the away games, I really wanted Dortmund. I've always wanted to see Celtic play Dortmund. I don't know the last time we played them in a first team match. We obviously had that kind of Legends game a couple of months ago. But it's Dortmund away as well. That's the one I wanted. Everyone wants to be at Signal Iduna Park. Atalanta away, great trip for the fans. I've been to Bergamo on the way to Cluj actually a couple of years ago, and I kind of wished we were staying in Bergamo rather than Cluj because it's an amazing place. Zagreb, great city as well. That's not a bad away game, by the way, in terms of like the teams we could have got from that pot. Tough match, but had them a few years ago in the Europa League. And Aston Villa, that's the one that jumps out to me. I really wanted Villa out of all the English teams. And I quite like the fact it's at Villa Park in a weird way as well. Like, I think the team will fancy that and have something to prove.
I mean, the fans love travelling to England as well and having a big away day in England. So that's just another one for the fans that kind of captures the imagination a wee bit. And I think all the games are exciting in their own way. You're either fancying a result or it's like a big, massive match in terms of like, it's rarely play some of these teams. So I'm really up for it. I think the players will be really up for it. And I'm not saying we're going to finish top of this 36 team table, but I don't think it's unreasonable to say we've got a realistic chance of sneaking into this top 24.
So 10 points. Where's your 10 points coming from there, roughly?
I think if you're looking, potentially beat Bruges at home, you're wanting to beat Slovan Bratislava at home, and then that's 6 points. And then Young Boys will be difficult, and Leipzig will be difficult. But I think we could fancy ourselves to back ourselves to get a draw against Leipzig. I know that they did beat us pretty handily a couple of years ago, but you go into that and thinking, we're not automatically beaten here. It's not Real Madrid. It's not Man City.
Games were still kind of close, weren't they? Relatively, for the first hour at least, they were very even.
And so immediately that's like, you're racking up in your head. You're writing it down on a bit of paper, but on paper you're thinking you're immediately picking up 7 or 8 points straight away, and then another 1 or 2 come from sneaking them here and there, and then you're through, and you're through to a knockout game, which we've not enjoyed in the Champions League for a good while, and then it's all just incredibly exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's there's a lot of work ahead for the team, but they've got to be looking at those fixtures and fancying those matches and fancying them in more than one way. I mean, going to Dortmund, that's going to be amazing. Going to Aston Villa, people talk up English football, and it's a great league, and obviously Villa are an exceptional team. They're led by one of the best managers around, I would say, Unai Emery, who's had mixed results against us, Spartak, Moscow and PSG. A great team, some great players, but like, I don't honestly think Celtic are that far off a team like Villa. I don't know if people might think that's a daft thing to say. I know they've spent so much money, but I think in a one-off game, even down at Villa Park, I fancy Celtic to go toe-to-toe with them.
Rodgers is going to be up for that one, isn't he? He's going,
yeah.
You're going to get the Rodgers glint in the eye and the cheeky smile, and I just think Rodgers is going to be so up for this as well. And I think we'll see that when we hear him in the media tomorrow. I think he's going to project, confidence in the sense of taking the game to these teams. Not confidence, obviously, and storming up the table, but I think there's opportunities for Celtic here, and I think Rodgers will be aware of that, especially if we do the business we need to on deadline day.
Fixture order, fixture dates, times, I believe will be out some point on Saturday. Yeah, so we'll know exactly what order. It'd be nice maybe to get a wee home game first of all, get maybe 3 points on the board and take it from there.
Yeah, it'd be nice to pick up 9 points early and then just relax for the final 5 games.
Play the B team, all of that stuff. Play the B team for Villa Park. Eric, there's plenty of Celtic links in these teams. You probably do the same as me. You look at these teams and you think of various things like Murdo McLeod and Paul Lambert and maybe Jeremy Toljan, I don't know, with Dortmund, and you think of John McGinn at Aston Villa and numerous other daft things. Which two former Celtic players could we come up against, though?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here, Hamish. Give me a wee clue. Have you got a clue for me?
So I think they both played in the same team, both in the back line. One's with Club Bruges and one's with Young Boys. And I think they both played under Brendan Rodgers in the first spell as well.
Was Jack Hendry at Bruges, is he?
It's a good shout, but he's not anymore. He was there. The player at Bruges is, and I don't think he actually plays anymore, Dedrick Boyata.
Oh, I didn't know.
And as I say, I don't think he plays anymore. And the guy who certainly does play and will certainly bring back bad memories, Young Boys, Sadi Yanko.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he does bring back bad memories.
You'd fancy Dyson Maida for a run at him.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. He was a bit of a running joke on our old podcast, was he not? Certain Mr. Paul Fisher really did not like him.
Yeah. What was the performance away to Hapoel Beersheva? Did he get sent off, give away a penalty, score an own goal, something like that? We still made it through. Right, okay, that's Champions League stuff for now. As I say, fixtures out on Saturday. We can maybe look forward to that a wee bit more, but look forward more if we sign players. I had a wee bit of a lie-in this morning, John, so you need to tell me exactly what's happening transfer-wise.
Well, it looks like Engels is on the verge of, being announced later today, and also Austin Trusty. So that's your O'Reilly replacement, that's your centre-back. And then, apparently we're looking for another midfielder, although, there's some reports that Alvin Sanchez is looking a bit less likely than he was yesterday. But I believe we're still looking for that second midfielder or that second attacking midfielder that Rodgers wants to really round out the squad. And you'd probably, and I mean, I don't know what earlier morning reports there have been, but you would expect we might go back to Dundee and have a wee look at Luke McCowan. That seems to be the kind of direction of travel in that sense. And then, I don't know if there'll be, maybe a deal or two late in the day from maybe on the fringes of a Premier League team or one of the bigger teams around Europe. Rodgers might fancy taking a punt on one of them just to add a bit of depth, but that'll be your lot. And then in the last week of the window, we'll have had a left back, the centre back, and the two midfielders that everyone was looking for. And how do you feel about all this? I mean, obviously Engels is looking absolutely class, and mixed reports on Trusty, but you would suggest there's been mixed reports on players coming to Celtic before and they've always performed. It does feel, I will suggest, it does feel like Brendan Rodgers' hallmarks are all over all of the signings that we've made. So that's perhaps at least a positive for some people, in the sense that it's not the club filling gaps for Rodgers that he doesn't want. It feels like all the players that are coming in or that have come in are definitely players that Rodgers has identified or signed off on and really wants at the club, I would suggest.
Yeah, Alex Valle kind of mentioned that, didn't he? The kind of impact to Brendan Rodgers. So it's clear that he's been a big part of that, as he should be. I think that was one of our many complaints this time last year, that Rodgers was giving it all this patter about the club signs the players, I'm here to coach them, and you're like, you're a brilliant coach, Brendan, but you need to be more involved in this signing process. So yeah, I take your point. I think that's positive. Engels is massively exciting, buzzing. That's the kind of signing I want Celtic to do. I realise the signing's not been made, but it seems like it's heading that way. That's what we want for a Matt O'Reilly replacement. Yeah,
£11 million apparently upfront fee, and then perhaps even as much as a 20% sell-on. So that's a big deal. That's obviously a record deal for Celtic, the biggest deal in the club's history. And by all accounts, Rodgers really wants this guy and thinks he can, really fulfill a potential at Celtic. And apparently, the players, I feel like the player maybe has been waiting on Matt O'Reilly leaving rather than Celtic, in terms of coming to Celtic and knowing that he's going to be playing regularly week to week and he's not going to be, a substitute to Matt O'Reilly. I think he's coming here to be one of the main men, like, immediately. I think he'll come in with that attitude and that confidence. I think Rodgers will give him that responsibility, and obviously the fee backs that up. And it's exciting to see what he's going to offer. He's still a young player. He's only 20, but he's had over 50 Bundesliga appearances. Like he seems like he's ready for a next step to become like the main man of a team, and hopefully we can kind of help him fulfill that potential. And obviously, when you're spending £11 million on a player, you've got a 20% sell on. I'm sure the club are looking at, obviously they don't want him to be a flop. They'll be looking to sell him on, in 2 or 3 years. So I think the signs are really, really positive in that one, and hopefully that he can kind of live. There's a lot of pressure when those kind of fees get mentioned. Becoming Celtic's record signing, it's going to, add an extra burden onto his shoulders, and hopefully, he's got the personality, and Rodgers will know whether he does have got the personality or not to really come to Celtic and become that main man at such a big club.
Yeah. He wants to be here as well. That's the things we keep hearing. He wants to play in the Champions League. He'll be familiar with a couple of the German teams in the Champions League. Also Club Brugge. I think he came through at Club Brugge, did he?
So yeah, but he's Belgian, yeah. I think he's he's kind of on the fringes of the Belgian national team as well.
Yeah. So which is no mean feat.
So if he's playing regularly here, he does well in the Champions League. I think Celtic's such a great platform for these players.
Yeah.
Who are kind of not at the giant clubs around Europe, but are kind of at those mid-tier clubs and need to stand out. It's hard to stand out sometimes. See, if you're a 20-year-old in the Bundesliga, I think it's hard. It's exceptionally difficult to, stand out as like a star man of the league. I think if you come to a club like Celtic, you can become that star man, not easily, but if you've got the talent and you've got the personality, you can become a star man and really capture headlines. Celtic are, I know it's such a cliche, but Celtic are such a huge club, and I feel like increasingly they're getting more and more media attention down south. I mean, if you stick on Talk Sport, they talk about Celtic every morning. If you stick on, the highlights of the Champions League are on the BBC this year. I just think there's such an opportunity for these players to build a profile at Celtic, and I think that's perhaps been underrated by some of the player agencies and perhaps some of the players over the years. But I think you see with Matt Riley, etc., I think Jota, etc., landed a massive payday. I just think there's opportunities for these players, and that's the kind of player and personality we want to attract. We want to attract these ambitious young guys, and hopefully Engels kind of fulfills that role.
Do you know much about him? As in, like, we hear that his playing style is a little bit more defensive, but I feel like everyone's got a little bit excited by hearing that, and they've suddenly got him down as this player breaking up the play. And I've seen suggestions of him playing number 6 and McGregor moving forward. That's not going to happen, is it? He's just that bit more slightly defensive, probably more likely to put a tackle in. But it seems like his numbers going forward with assists and chances created are still really good.
I think as soon as Rodgers gets his hand on him, he's going to urge him to be that player who tries to break through the defensive line, and combines with Hatate and McGregor, who will be not even a little deeper. Because, I mean, when we're playing teams at Celtic Park, for instance, who come with such a low defensive line, I think all three of the midfielders are almost attacking midfielders at times. I think he's going to task Engels with almost the same responsibilities he's tasked Matt O'Reilly in terms of get into the box, get your goals, get shots on target, and see what happens from there. I think that's where we see him, and I think hopefully he can fulfil that role. We know Rodgers loves those players who can. I mean, he did it with Stuart Armstrong, didn't he? So he did it with Matt O'Reilly. I mean, he loves those players who can kind of get themselves into the box, make that extra run, in support of other midfielders and wingers, and I think that's probably what we'll see from him.
Yeah, Ryan Christie, I guess, would be another one who kind of fits into that mould. Engels to arrive in Glasgow on Friday, according to reports. He's going to sign a 4-year deal. As you said, Augsburg said to have a 20% sell-on clause, which is fine. We can worry about that in a couple of years. What about just sticking with the midfield stuff, as you say? Anthony Joseph reporting that a deal looking unlikely for Lausanne Sport midfielder Alvin Sanchez. We had turned to him after negotiations for Matthias Bogut's failed to progress. We're said to still be in the hunt for another midfielder. That's no secret. Brendan Rodgers wants 2 in. And I've literally got written down here, enter Luke McCowan. And you brought it up. And I think that would be the general feeling, wouldn't it? Just putting 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, I see the Luke McCowan thing as a kind of... I said it, and I think I said it last week, a kind of almost a David Turnbull-esque type of squad player, someone who can play in the Premiership quite often, rather than a Champions League type signing. We're going to be playing a lot of games. I think it's important for people to remember there's no winter break this year. The Champions League goes, well into the new year. So there's just a lot of games, a really heavy schedule just throughout. It's not, there's not just the six, and just a couple of, I think, just another couple of midweek Champions League games does add a bit of pressure onto the schedule. I know we're just playing one game a week at the moment, but it'll quickly ramp up, and I think you do need players, different options, players who can freshen things up at the weekend, who might not have played midweek, and I think that's possibly what this kind of second midfielder would be, whether it would be a Sanchez or a McCowan. I don't think they're going to be starters in the Champions League, but I think they can still perform a decent squad role, because I just don't think that Rodgers fancies Odin home at all. I know we've got Paulo Bernardo as well, and I think he'll be doing a lot of that as well, but I think having another one in there is no bad thing at all. I did like the Bogus thing, but that was such a strange story. It just seemed to pop up and then just completely evaporate, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But hopefully, I do think we need another midfielder of some sort. Rodgers clearly thinks we do. I think the most important thing tomorrow is just getting Engels to the door, getting that centre back in, and then hopefully, in the second half of the day, do some sort of deal.
Yeah, I wonder if it could be like a name we've not heard yet. That might be the exciting part of the day, is, you get these various reports about us needing a player, and he'll probably look at England somewhere. Yeah,
it could be, a 21-year-old who's come through an academy, maybe had some championship experience, maybe he's on the fringes of a Premier League side. I could easily see that happening tomorrow, or later today, shall we say. I could easily see that happening, so hopefully... I just hope that Rodgers gets a player that he trusts and wants and will give game time to. I don't think there's any point in just signing a player for the sake of it.
Yeah. I mean, McCowan's a good player. He's done well at Dundee. I guess if we sign him, there's going to be a fair bit of reaction from supporters, maybe overblown in terms of, we're signing Luke McCowan and we're hoping to make an impact in the Champions League. I guess the reality, if we do sign McCowan, is that while we probably agree he's not going to improve the Celtic first team, he it's a squad game these days, and he would have some sort of a part to play, and he is kind of readily available there, you would think. So we'll wait and see. It's one to keep an eye on today, everyone. I kind of wanted someone like Boguts or even Sanchez, and someone with that just real quality to come in alongside Engels and really make that midfield strong. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So it may just be that we have to kind of settle for something because we've left it so late.
The good thing about Bogus was that he kind of had that versatility where he's kind of like, he plays attacking midfield, but he plays a lot of games on the right wing as well. I think he played a few games as centre forward, and it's just that kind of thing that would just give us a lot of different options and different positions, which I think is probably what you would really want from that last signing, is someone who can perform a couple of different roles and really kind of slot in anywhere across that front five, really. And I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen. Certainly that player's not going to happen, but if we can find someone who can kind of perform multiple roles, I think that would be ideal. Because you're still looking at the wing areas and thinking, we've got a lot of players there, but Mikey Johnston's leaving. Does Rodgers trust Yang? Is Yang good enough to really kick us on? We're kind of, there's tentative interest in Palma over the last 24 hours or so that Celtic are kind of rebuffing, but does Rodgers fancy Palma? Like, what is the situation there? So ideally you would have another attacking spark in that team, but I think 4 signings in the last week of the window for a good chunk of money and Rodgers really believing them all would be a good result. So that's probably, if you get that, you're probably giving it a tentative thumbs up.
What about Austin Trusty? As I say, we mentioned him. Scott Burns at Daily Record saying we've agreed a $6 million plus deal, not to be sniffed at. But we now face an anxious wait. Good to see if we can get a work permit before the close of the transfer window. Hey,
that's paper. That's surely paper talk. The kind of late rush, kind of get a player over the line type thing. Trying to add some urgency and jam, and not for any other reason than to make it probably sound a little bit more interesting than it is. I think surely if Celtic have got this lined up, then you can push their work permit pretty easily. I think on the final, I'm sure loads of clubs will be looking to expedite some sort of work visas on the final day of the transfer window. So hopefully that's nothing out of the ordinary too much, and we can just push on with that one.
The reports we're seeing from Sheffield United fans aren't particularly brilliant over Austin Trusty, and maybe it's a little bit of a concern when you hear that kind of stuff. I guess if you look back, probably when Cameron Carter-Vickers signed and we heard from Spurs fans at that stage, they wouldn't have been too positive about him, and he's turned out to be, well, the best centre-back I've seen in a decade at Celtic. So do we trust the club here? I know it might be a ridiculous thing to say given that the recruitment was so bad this time last year, but hopefully Brendan Rodgers and the club have seen something in Trusty. Maybe they see another Cameron Carter-Vickers, because the profile, I know he's kind of a couple of years older than when Carter-Vickers signed, but the profile seems relatively similar, having been at a big club. I think Trusty was at Arsenal. Obviously, they're both American centre-backs. Trusty, I think, can play in the left as well, although he has a centre-back, just like Carter-Vickers could apparently play in the right, even though we've not seen that at all. So maybe the club just think they've found another Carter-Vickers here. Maybe we just need to go with it.
I think you've got to. I know there's some supporters take everything that the club do with an element of bad faith. I know some supporters take the club everything to do with an element of good faith. I think if you're seeing the club spending a decent chunk of money on a player and the manager wants them, I think you've got to at least give them credit in the sense of feeling hopeful about it. Now, I'm not going to say that he's going to become a star player and become our best ever defensive signing, but you've got to have an element of hope when the club are putting a good chunk of resource into a target that you think the manager really wants. I think that's as much as you can ask for sometimes until you see them play. And I know it's such a cliche that players are only judged what they do in a Celtic shirt. It's such a Celtic datism, if you grant me that. But
Adamida.
Yeah, Norwich fans did not like Adamida, and he came in and did a remarkable job on loan last season, and hopefully he can kick on now. So there is a sense of wait until you see him play a few games in Celtic colours and then see what it's all about. We know we needed a left-sided centre-half. We know that the manager didn't fancy Lagerbielke before he went out on loan, didn't fancy Kobayashi before he left permanently. Narodsky has got injury issues and fitness problems, and he's just never kicked on when we signed him. And this seems to be someone who's perhaps a little bit more reliable and a little bit more ready to kind of stake a claim in that first team, with Liam Scales kind of acting as his rotation/deputy, I think, over the piece.
Imagine he was as good as Cameron Carter-Vickers and we had those two together who know each other. It'd be very exciting, especially when you add in Alex Valle potentially at left back, although we'll have to kind of wait and see how that one plays out. He met the media yesterday, mainstream media, fan media as well. Daniel from GigPod was there. Johnny said Celtic even laid on sandwiches. What do you make of that? They must have been feeling very good yesterday. And yeah, a big thanks to Daniel for sending these photos on of the sandwiches and the player himself and some footage as well. Here's a flavour of what Alex Valle had to say yesterday.
It was a really warm welcome. Everyone was so nice to me, and they have helped me, if either the teammates or people in the club. It's everything excellent. So I faced this season with enthusiasm because of this really nice group, and yeah, that's it. I think I can adapt to whatever. That's one of the main points of my style of playing, I would say. Either if I need to play on the side, or if I have to go inside to help the middle. But I don't know what would be the best for me. I've seen some clips and some clips or short videos of some matches, and I know the atmosphere here, how the football is lived, and I think it's what I'm looking for. And yeah, as I've said a couple of times, looking forward to leave it here in Celtic Park. I thought that it would be an Spanish team, but for something in the destiny, this hasn't happened. So, well, we have to focus now on our draw, our matches, and hard work to achieve the opportunity of going through the group, and yeah, nothing else.
Thanks again to GigPod for that. John, did anything jump out from Alex Valle, and how do you think he's going to get on?
Just that I think that he's here because of the Brendan Rodgers thing, where Rodgers kind of sold him on the way that he wants him to play in the team and that he's going to get games here. I don't think he's just going to be here again just to fill a slot on the bench. I think he's going to, there's going to be rotation between Taylor and Valle, I think, throughout the course of the season. The only thing that bugs me about this is it's not loan to buyer and it's just a straight loan. And again, a lot of fans aren't happy with just straight loans these days, and I can't say I'm particularly enamoured with them either. I do prefer a signing or a loan to buy type thing. But in terms of like Valle, I think he's here to kind of develop under Brendan Rodgers, and I think when someone comes in with a purpose to try and improve themselves and play minutes in a Celtic shirt, then I think again it's kind of what you want from the player. I thought, he spoke pretty well. He's trying to speak in English. He's trying to, get involved straight away. He was talking like he had a warm welcome from his teammates and everything. I think he's here. I think he's happy to be here. I don't think Celtic are kind of last resort type loan deal for him. I think he's probably been given a variety of options, and he's looked at Celtic in the Champions League. He's had a chat with Brendan Rodgers, and he's thought, I can go there and impress, and again, enhance, take a next step in my career. After being in, the second tier of La Liga, fringes of Barca, in pre-season, that Celtic could be another opportunity for him to really kick on and push on.
It just seems like he's waiting for that platform to go and do his stuff, and we've given that platform to a number of players over the year: Odsonne Edouard, Jeremy Frimpong, Jota. Maybe the difference would appear to be that I guess Edouard was a kind of loan with no option to buy originally, so maybe something could be sorted out down the line if Alex Valle is good. I don't think he's going to start on Sunday or anything like that, but maybe going forward he can kind of vie with Greg Taylor for that.
But I mean, from what you see, you only ever see clips and highlights and things, but he looks athletic. He looks like he's eager to get stuck in a little bit. He doesn't look particularly lightweight. I think he'll fit in well to the way that we're playing. And again, Rodgers selling him on it, Rodgers pursuing that, I think is a good sign on that front.
Rangers on Sunday then. After all this chat, we've got a derby. We're half an hour in and we've not even mentioned it. Mm-hmm. How's it going to go? What are you thinking?
I don't want to say anything that's going to.
They don't watch this channel, by the way.
Okay.
They've not found us yet. Maybe if they beat us one time, they will, but they've not found it. The Rangers fans.
They'll definitely not find me saying that we're going to beat them and then post it on Twitter after the game if we don't. I think why would we be fearing this game? There's no reason to fear this game in any sense. I know they had a bit of a confidence boost last week, but I think Celtic have shown enough in the early stages of the season that we're going to really take the game to them and put them under pressure. And I think, can they withstand that pressure? I think the jury's out on that. I think Celtic can sustain good periods of pressure throughout the whole game. And I think if Celtic start strongly on Sunday, I think it's going to be really difficult for Rangers. I haven't got no problem saying that. I don't think that's out of order for me saying I don't think that's me being overconfident. I think you would, suggest the derbies against Clement since he's come in have been tight. They've been pretty well contested matches. I don't think we've blown them away yet since he came into the club. So there is an element of that. I don't think it's going to be a total walkover, but I do have a confidence that we're going to pick up the result that we want, which is obviously a win. And what kind of margin of victory that would be, I don't know. But I just think Celtic are looking so sharp right now. And I think just the motivation that this game brings, all the players are going to be so up for it. Again, there's none of their fans on the ground, completely Celtic. I think we can just go and show why we're the champions. Basically, that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I'm expecting. I think that's what the team will deliver.
I think the scores have been tight, certainly in the games with Clermont, and the cup final was a tight match. I think the other three, to be fair, we've been a couple of goals up in all of them, and have kind of let them back into all the matches. So I think we'll start really quick. We've scored after like 2, 3, 4 minutes, I think, most of this season so far. So I think we'll see Celtic trying to do that again. And if we get an early goal, I think all bets are off. I think it could be a wonderful afternoon. I think Rangers are fragile at the moment. But as we said last season, before these games, the support need to just be right up for it. Not taking anything for granted at all, which I don't think we will, to be fair. Give those Rangers players hell off the pitch, and I think the way we're playing on the pitch with that tempo and intensity, I think it'll give them hell on the pitch as well. And it's a game I really fancy us to go and win.
I mean, you're just looking for a week like this a week like this can set the stage for your entire season. You make your signings, you have a good deadline day, you get a pretty exciting Champions League draw, and then you beat Rangers in the derby. Like that's the perfect closing part of the early stage of the season. You know what I mean? Like that's the perfect setup for the rest of the season. And then you're just hoping that the team see it through. I think they will. I think they know what an early derby victory means. This team knows what that means. And I think they understand that if they get it right on Sunday, it just sets the stage for what could be a fantastic season. And there'll be no question marks around the team, no question marks about the manager. Like that's what a solid, confident victory on Sunday brings. It just really sets us up for a great autumn, a great winter. So fingers crossed, Hamish.
Yeah. And straight into an international break as well. Anything else today, John?
Nothing else, Hamish. No, nothing else. I'm excited about the deals that we're going to do. I'm really excited about the weekend, and I'm just excited to see what Celtic turn up on Sunday.
Fabulous. Great to have you on once again. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for watching this. As I said earlier, me and Stevie are going to do a video tomorrow looking properly at the game and any transfers that we do today. So we'll chat to you then. Remember, we're going for 10,000 subscribers as well, so if you're able to help us there, you can just click in the middle of the screen right now. Actually, we'll catch you soon.